Good afternoon. Welcome back to Bloomington. It's a great place to be. I come here every day and I still kind of get that pang of having been an undergraduate here. In fact, I spent a great summer. I was fortunate to spend a summer down here, the summer of 1980, and sometimes when I'm walking along I get a smell or a whiff and I'm just back there, you know, and so it's pretty cool to come back, and a lot of you I see on a fairly frequent basis, and my guess is some of you maybe haven't been back in a while, so welcome, and thanks to JT and Jeff for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all a little bit. I am an IU guy, as Jeff mentioned. I have 2 degrees from here. I received my undergraduate degree from the college in 1981, and then I received my law degree from Indianapolis in '84 because I had so much fun as an undergraduate. There was no way I could buckle down and study for law school in Bloomington, so I bailed out to Indianapolis and was able to shed some of my undergraduate habits. But I've come from an IU family. My mother has 2 IU degrees. My wife has an IU degree. My daughter has an IU degree. Her husband has an IU degree. My son, who went to Marquette undergrad, got his IU law degree. I had one graduate this last spring, so he has his degree, and I have a rising sophomore, and God willing, he'll get his IU degree. And so it's really been a family affair. I remember being a little kid and they'd have art class and you'd make stuff out of like egg cartons and stuff, and no matter what it was, it always ended up being the interlocking IU for me. And I remember when I was a junior, I came down to visit my best friend's brother who lived in McNutt, and spent a weekend in McNutt, and after that it was like game over. Like, I'm going to IU. This is like the greatest place that was ever invented. Same guy, we skipped school to welcome the 1976 undefeated national basketball team back to what was then Ware Cook Airport, and Tom was talking about people meeting their spouses. I actually met my wife Barbara at an IU football game in Memorial Stadium, and I proposed to her after a football game as well. I like to emphasize they were different games. I didn't act that quickly. There's a little time in between, but I got around to it eventually. So when this opportunity came up, and people say, was this your dream job? And it's really not. I never thought about doing this until the search committee reached out to me, and I was a little taken back at first, but then, you know, I thought this is something that I think, you know, I could do, that I'd really like to try to do, not because it would be a trip down memory lane and we'd go to the old places, and Tom was talking about that, and there's plenty on campus that have special memories for me and my wife and all that. But to me, this job's about the future, the 3rd century, if you will, and it's about excellence. And I think back on when I first met President McRobbie, and I was very intimidated because it was sort of funny. The search committee was told, look, I found this out. We don't care, you know, who you hire. The president said, I don't care who you hire. I've got no preconceived notions other than the fact that it's got to be somebody who's been an athletic director before, because we've got to have somebody that knows what they're doing, under which I'm disqualified because hadn't been an athletic director before, came out of a different background. But slowly but surely, I think we both concluded this might make sense. And a lot of you know President McRobbie. Some of you don't. But he's a great guy, a wonderful boss. He's very intimidating. He's big. He's a weightlifter. He's got a barrel chest. He's got that Australian accent. And then he's an academic in information technology. So he's like smart on top of smart, you know, and he gets right to the heart of it. And I went in and I talked to him, but I did have the temerity to ask him a couple questions. And my first question was, you know, athletics is an area that's notorious for being kibitzed in by, you know, well-meaning but folks that maybe shouldn't be getting involved, whether they're boosters or whatever. And I said, you know, I don't think this is an ego thing, but if you're going to have me do this, I've got to have some assurance that you'll let me run the athletic department. And he kind of looked at me for a minute and was like, oh my God, please, because he had spent like his first year dealing with Kelvin Sampson and one thing after another, and he said, I'm trying to get moving out on university issues, and I'm spending 60% of my day on athletics, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to give that to you. And I said, that's great. And my second question was whether his commitment to excellence that he has in important areas like teaching and research and rebuilding our infrastructure in the traditional way in which it needs to be rebuilt, reestablishing our international ties in a way that we haven't done since the days of Herman Wells, whether his commitment to excellence in those areas extended to athletics. Because frankly, you know, I had a pretty good gig in Indianapolis and was pretty happy doing what I was doing, and I felt like I could come down and make sure the pots didn't boil over and hopefully we stayed out of trouble, but that doesn't really do it for me. You know, I want to be part of something that wants to be the best and wants to be excellent. And the president committed that he did want to be excellent. He made some reference to being Australian and how they, you know, they're champion swimmers and cricket players and stuff. And but he made that commitment to me, and he's kept that. He's given me the time, the attention, and the resources to help lead the department in a way that I think is excellent. It was interesting when I went over to the Department of Athletics. I knew I had a large learning curve to climb, and my law firm was really good about saying that, hey, you can take the next couple months and do what you need to do in the transition. So I set up a list of like 150 people that I wanted to go talk to so that, you know, I could hit the ground running. And I went around and talked to a variety of people, including coaches. And it was interesting because multiple coaches said to me, why would someone who looks like they could be doing other stuff want to come here and do this job? And I was really bummed about that. It didn't make me nervous like I'd made a mistake. It made me sad because for me, it was a terrific job. Maybe not a dream job, but because I hadn't dreamt it. But when I embraced it, it really was a dream job because I'm in this quintessential college town, you know, Bloomington, Indiana. I'm on the most beautiful campus, I think, in the country. I'm in this fabulous institution with, you know, whatever it is, 11 schools and a bazillion degrees and nationally recognized in a variety of areas. And then it's kids and it's sports. I felt like a kid in a candy store. So I'm very, very excited, and it bummed me out that these folks who were in the middle of it thought so little of the environment that they wondered why I was coming. So I reflected on that a little bit, and then it started to make sense. Because the decade leading up to me taking this job, they'd had 5 athletic directors in 8 years. So how can you get traction in any organization if you've got that kind of leadership being churned? Less than 10 years before, Coach Knight had been fired, and wherever you may or may not have been on that issue, it was very divisive. It was divisive in the state, divisive in the university, it was divisive in that department. I don't think the department had quite recovered even from that. And then Coach Hepner, who we all think was going to be the guy to lead us to the promised land in football, was cut down by a brain tumor at a young age. And then finally, the reason I was there is because there had been the debacle that was the era of Coach Sampson, both in terms of cheating and in terms of, in certain areas, a lack of attention to academic success. And that had created what for them was a normal that shouldn't have been normal, and was creating all the kinds of behaviors that you might expect in that kind of environment. Keeping my head down. This guy's going to be like everybody else. He's going to come and go. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to point out things where they can be improved, or I'm hunkered down. When I was in government, we used to call that the weebies. You know, we'd win an election in the mayor's office or the governor's office or whatever, and the lifelong bureaucrats were what we called weebies. We'd be here before you got here, we'd be here now, and we'd be here after your ass is long gone. We were a storm to be endured. And so how do you approach that? How do you deal with that when you want to go from an environment that I think was sort of broken to an environment in which you can thrive? Well, to me, the key essence of that, and earlier I think each of our speakers have talked about priorities, and I think it starts with the establishment of clear priorities. My experience in government and politics and law and business is if you don't have very clearly set forth priorities, everybody else's priorities become your priorities. The urgent displaces the important. The the endless emails, the fire of the day, the knucklehead outside your office distract you from what you're really trying to accomplish. So we set those out very clearly. They are in order. Number one, we're going to play by the rules. Number two, we're going to achieve academically. Our kids are going to go to class and graduate. Number three, we're going to excel athletically. We're going to win championships. And number four, we're going to be integrated with our university. We're going to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And everything that we do or prioritize are consistent with those goals. And so as we think about where we want to be in our third century, it really is oriented around those goals. And I could talk more about how we are trying to take steps to fulfill those goals and the success I think we've started to have from the inputs of budget decisions and personnel decisions and facility decisions are having impacts on our outputs in terms of kids graduating and succeeding and all that. But I've been cautioned multiple times to keep my speech to 10 minutes. And I don't know why. I might have a reputation for going on and on because I get excited about athletics. But I do appreciate the chance to introduce that, talk about where we're going, and thank you for your attendance. Go IU.